David asked me to put a backup presentation together, just in case somebody didn't turn up, and prior to about 10 minutes ago, I thought I got away without using it. I'm just going to start on this, and if Ken does turn up in the next few minutes, then I'll quickly step down and he can fill in. The good news is he's receiving a CTBUH award tonight, so if anyone fancies receiving that award rather than Ken, we could perhaps do that. That was a joke. I'm obviously in the difficult position now of having to fill in for Ken Yang, number one, and follow Paul Morell, who gave a fantastic presentation. So I'm hoping you're going to bear with me. There's no need to clap, I haven't heard it yet. Fortunately, my presentation is fairly light. It's some of the student work that we've been doing in the high-rise design studio at the University of Nottingham, and hopefully what I'm going to be continuing here at IIT. The title of the presentation will perhaps make sense of the question that I asked Daniel Leveskind today, will perhaps make sense through the title of the presentation. Because I think there are predominantly two main approaches in the design of a high-rise building. There is what I call economic extrapolated approach, which is to take an efficient floor plan and extrapolate it into a vertical tower, which is essentially clad economic space. And then there is the more structural, iconic approach, and we've seen a lot of examples of those over the past 2 days. Some fantastic forms, some fantastic iconic buildings. However, I'm concerned about the transportability of these iconic models. I've lived and worked in half a dozen countries around the world. I've travelled across 7 continents. Part of the reason that I've done that is because I'm interested in the differences between places, not necessarily the similarities between places. And although, as you would expect of the Executive Director of the Council on Tall Buildings, I am passionate about tall buildings, I believe that there are design responses that generate from place, and that tall buildings could be built, which would also be sculptural, beautiful, iconic icons, but they relate to the city and they take their design inspiration from the city and they give something back to the city. If anyone sees Ken at any stage, please let me know. And also, I'm going to condense this because it's been a long 2 days and I'm sure you're tired and there's guys up here to ask questions, but I'm filling. Right. Sorry, just on that, if anyone's confused, this morning Peter Reese's excellent presentation was focused on the City of London, which is his ward. You see there the central circle, that's the City of London. There are several other areas in London, in the greater area of London, where tall buildings are being developed. The blue circle to the right there is the whole Canary Wharf Dockland development. South of the City of London, in Southwark, that's where Renzo Piano's Shard of Glass is, and there are other areas in London that are being developed. So that maybe helps for non-UK people, just to put that in perspective. So on the left there is the cluster, the City of London cluster that Peter Rees was talking about, and on the right there, on the other side of the Thames, south of the river, is Southwark, and predominantly the Renzo Piano Shard of Glass Tower. Over the past few years, what we do each year, what we've done with the design studio with the students is taken a real project and a real client. So the first year of operation, we took the Heron Tower project and we worked with Con Pedersen Fox. We had presentations, the architects attended the crits, and we took the brief and the site. We expanded the brief because the Heron Tower project in London is predominantly an office tower. We expanded that to make it mixed use, which I'm not going to go into now, but actually I think that's an important thing in enriching tall buildings, opportunities for tall buildings and for cities. So when I say mixed use, I don't mean an office tower with a restaurant at the top and a bookshop in the ground floor. That to me is not mixed use. I mean office and residential together, or office and hotel function. This was the site for the Heron Tower. You can see there 2 quite boring buildings, old buildings, and to the left there, Grade 1 listed church. And various people, I think, have explained the project to you. This is the Heron Tower project. Paul just showed it briefly, so I'm not going to go into depth on this, except to say that KPF's approach was to put the core to the south, an offset core, to shield from environmental gains. Great decision in my book. And as it's a multi-let tower, planned as a multi-let tower, it's organised as a series of 3-storey villages based around a central atrium. So again, north facing, no direct solar gain into the office floor plate, facing north and based around these atriums. Okay, just some of the student proposals. That's the eastern cluster that Peter was talking about. Actually, it's not, because there's one student proposal there. But you see Swiss Re, see Tower 42, and there's a lot of other proposals for new towers that you've seen already. Just a bit of eye candy, some of the student approaches. I'm not going to go into depth, I'm going to just concentrate on 3 across 3 different projects. But some of the different inspirations behind the projects: environmental, to do with blocking out of sun and light, or reacting against the blocking out of sun and light at the ground floor plane due to a tall building, harnessing wind within the tall building. And I just want to tell you about this project, which I think would have a fairly staggering effect on any skyline of the city. So I'm not against iconic forms, but I just want to explain to you how this project relates to the city and is inspired by the city. Consider, if you will, the standard core and floor plate arrangement on the left there, centralised core. As a concept, if we staggered the floor plate relative to the core, relative to the north point, which you see in that diagram, i.e. if the floor space was orientated to the south, then in the northern hemisphere, in a setting like London, that would perhaps lend itself towards residential space. Because in residential space, we like to invite sun into our spaces. The inverse is true of an office. You would want to, as Heron Tower itself does, orientate that to the north. Orientate it to the north light, away from direct solar gain because of the internal gains in an office. Conceptual layer number 1. Conceptual layer number 2, within this stepping, is then to shift the floor plate relative to the core, depending on the view or something that's going on in the city. And this is the thing that I think a lot of tall buildings do not take advantage of. The main difference between a 3-storey building and a 30-storey building is that a 30-storey building has a relationship, potentially, with 100 sites around the city. Unlike a 3-storey building, which only has a relationship, a direct visual contact relationship with the site context at the base. As you rise up with the tall building, it starts to open up a visual dialogue with places around the city. Views of the city and views of the building from parts of the city. Important places, the top of Paul's Dome, St. Paul's Dome, Primrose Hill, so on and so forth. So that was the inspiration behind this project. And someone's waving to me at the top there. Does that mean Ken? As Ken walks down the steps, I'm just going to shut up and just flip through the slides, which you can just see as a series of images, to show some of the projects that we've produced. I wasn't going to talk in detail about all of these, you'll be pleased to know. But just so you think we've engineered this whole scenario, I want to finish with a quote from Ken Yang, and there he is. By the way, just as Ken's getting ready, if anybody does want to see any more of that work, then it's encompassed within an organisation called the Tall Building Teaching and Research Group, which was formalised by myself 2 or 3 years ago, but involves a lot of colleagues from around the world who have been involved in the teaching and research programmes that have informed a lot of that work. And yeah, you can see that. That's the website, www.tallbuildings.com.